record. We'll get this mirrored over to Facebook land, and then we'll get to talking. All right, looks like we are just about there.
I don't think so. Can you hear it? Well, yeah, but you're sitting by the speakers.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Looks like we are live on Facebook. So cool. All right, right on, you guys. Let's give it a second, let some people join in. I'm going to look over at our attendees, see if we have some of our regular attendees joining us. I do see plenty of those names. Steve and Martha Hewitt from Columbus, Ohio. You're there again, and thank you for joining us. I see Paul Maynard. I see Nancy Gillis, Mike Wilkie. Awesome. I see a bunch of you guys joining us, and appreciate that, always being there. And we'll give it another minute or two over on the Facebook side of things because it tracks a little bit slower than us, and so we'll start to see some people joining in over there. Oh, okay. Your interesting label is the Herman Story First Time Caller. Right on. That I know that wine. Don't I know that wine? Yeah, we'll have to look that one up later. But that he has a lot of interesting labels. Herman Story does. So I'm sure you guys can agree on that one.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
Cool. All right, we'll give it a minute here. Oh, it's Petite Syrah. Okay, right on. Excellent. Elise, thanks for coming and joining us today. Awesome. Mark Bear sent a couple of friends to Tooth and Nail, huh? A couple weeks ago, they had a great time, so that's cool. Right on.
Cool.
How can you not though over there? Seriously, you guys were pumping the other day. I came by to pick up wine. It was busy.
Yeah, we've been going hard this week for sure.
Well, you're lucky you have as much kind of outdoor space as you do, so you can still get people but yet still separate them out and everything. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've been fortunate for that.
Right on. All right. Cool. All right. Well, let's get rolling here in just a second. Thanks for sharing it, all of you, though. I saw that it was out there on Facebook. Dirk, I saw yours, and Jason, I saw yours. I don't know if I saw Tooth and Nail, but I'm sure you guys are always on top of things, so I'm sure you guys shared it, so it's cool. So, all right, let's roll. So, welcome, everyone, to another Zoom Hangout, a Paso Wine Zoom Hangout. I'm Chris Toronto with the Paso Robles Wine Country Alliance. And we're hanging out again on a Thursday afternoon, having a little bit of wine, kind of day drinking, if you will, with three winemakers who are pretty cool. They're very imaginative, I would say, and definitely are people who have put their imagination to use on a label, I would say. So, and we're going to get into that in just a second. I want to go ahead and introduce everybody first, give them 30 seconds or so to say a little bit about themselves and their brand. So, Jeremy, let's start with you over at Tooth and Nail. You're on mute, but if you want to say hello to everybody and tell us a little bit about yourself and your brand.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. My name's Jeremy Leffert. I'm the director of winemaking for Rabble Wine Company at Tooth and Nail Winery. First castle on the right. This company was started back in 2008 by Rob Murray. Originally, we started brands from each of the vineyards that we farmed. And yeah, I first came to Paso Robles about 15 years ago. I had the pleasure of meeting Chris right when I got started into this. So it's actually it's a pleasure to be here on the screen with you, Chris, and hope everyone's having a good afternoon.
Right on. Cool. Thanks, man. We'll get into stuff, right? Jason, you're up next. Jason Bushong, Bushong Vintage Company.
Yeah, hi. I've been a career winemaker here in Paso for this is I think 20 years now. I moved here in 2000.
Wow.
This is my 25th harvest, I believe. Started my brand in the late 2000s, but didn't really focus too much on it. It was just sort of a side thing to having full-time winemaking positions. And then found my own hospitality site about 3 years ago to have my own place and space and vibe that we wanted to establish that try to take a more relaxed and less pretentious way to appreciate wine and more of a lounge-like setting downtown. And just love being in Paso, love making wine, where I raised my children. It's an incredible community. Glad I can join everybody on this Zoom meeting, and I hope everyone's doing well in these trying times.
Yeah, right on. Thanks, Jason. Dirk Neumann with Absolution, Cellars, and a cat.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me, Chris. Great to be here with Jeremy and Jason on this call. Absolution Cellars, we specialize in handcrafted wines from select vineyards throughout the Central Coast, from Paso up to Chalone, down to Santa Barbara, and everywhere in between. Lots of small batch wines, all single vineyard. I've been doing this since 2014. In fact, I made my very first barrel of wine with Jeremy down at the workshop. And my hobby spiraled out of control by 2016 to the point where in 2017 it was either stop or take that quantum leap of leave the day job, make enough wine so that I could be here in 2020, of course, knowing everything that 2020 held in store for me. Opened the tasting room in Morro Bay in February. 5 weeks later, tastings were shut down, but figured out how to continue to sell bottles of wine to people that had never tasted the wine before. And now we're back up and running with our little two outdoor tables and thriving in these very trying times, and just blessed to be here.
Right on. Cool. Well, so back to topic at hand. We're talking about interesting and cool labels. And I'll reiterate a little bit offline of what I was saying to the guys, but I was looking at who has been on the show, who hasn't been on the show, and I was looking at Jason's website and some of the labels that he has, and this one here to me, I was like, wow, that's a neat label. That's like super cool. Got to be a story behind that. And then I started to think about who else would be really awesome to have on from a label standpoint that hasn't been featured on the show yet. And so that's where Absolution and that's where Tooth and Nail came on. But Jason, though, I want to start with you because I don't know. Like I actually, everybody watching, I don't know if there's a story behind this label, to be perfectly honest. I just figured it's going to be really cool to talk about, and there's got to be a story. So I want to start with you, Jason, and tell us a little bit about what went into that label. Mind you, it's a Barbera, by the way. We'll get to tasting the wines and talking about the wines, but all of your labels are really super interesting. Where does this come from?
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the nice comments about the labels. That particular label is we're always searching. I always wanted to do one-off labels for all the wine, which probably isn't the best thing for marketing, but it goes along with what we're trying to accomplish as far as our vibe is concerned. And so that one, that was done by a guy who does gig posters for bands like the Black Keys and a band called Shiger Roche, which is an Icelandic band. And I happen to have one of their posters framed in a rental I have. And Lindsay, who's my tasting room manager, saw the poster and really liked it. And so she thought, well, I'm going to try to hunt this guy down. And it turned out he's in Russia. And so we just contacted him through the wonderful World Wide Web internet and asked him if we could commission him to do a label for us. And he said, absolutely. And he ended up doing two for us. That one that we had in mind for the Barbera, which we named after a Shigeru song. A lot of my wines are named after music. I'm a big collector of music, and music's a big part of our theme and our tasting room, and basically in my life in general.
Yeah.
So we asked him if he would do it, and he said, yeah, what do you like? And we said, we like pretty girls. I don't know why. I don't know why Lindsay said that. I mean, I'm a happily married man of 24 years, so, but I do, and I have a pretty wife, so maybe that's it. But so he came back with that, and so basically, that label was inspired by a gig poster that was hanging, that I had framed, that was hanging in my rental, and we went on from there. And we've been doing more of that, commissioning artists that we find that we like online, whether they're in Italy or Great Britain or Russia. And the greatest thing about that label was I had no idea, you know, what this guy was going to charge me. So we just said, hey, do a label. And then he did that one. He sent us another piece of artwork, and we said, yeah, we really dig that. We don't have anything that we, you know, a purpose for it at the moment or a program, but we'll take it too and just hold on to it. We've since used it. And so I said, yeah, just send me a bill on PayPal. That was his method of getting paid. And I got the bill, and it was like 15,000 rubles, you know? And I was like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? You know, man, I didn't have any idea. Turned out to be about $150. So about $75 an image, which was pretty amazing. I mean, if I would have done that in California, it would have been 15,000. Maybe not that much, but anyway, it was a pretty funny story. So,
Yeah, that is actually. That's
yeah.
cool. Do you have that other bottle handy?
I do, yeah. And the artist's name is Alk Wetza, and you can look him up, and he just does super crazy cool stuff.
Yeah, right on. I think that it's pretty neat how oftentimes so much that happens in our industry is just kind of by like simple dumb luck or weird fate that you end up with, whether it be a name of your brand or a label or even how you find your fruit. And so, yeah, let's check that out.
Yeah, so this is the other label he did for us, and we end up using this in a wine called Same Deep Water as You, which just happens to be appropriate for where we're at in this time in life, or in the world actually. And this is a Tempranillo Grenache Syrah blend. But I always wanted to name a song or a wine after a Cure song. Big Cure fan, the '80s guy in general. And so when this one came, we thought, well, it's got sort of a watery theme with the octopus, so hence we named it Same Deep Water as You, which is a great Cure song. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
that's
definitely
cool.
he does some little psychedelic look on this one for sure. And like I said, if you go and check out his stuff on Instagram, it's really cool. He's pretty talented, interesting guy. And we're working on another project with him, but ever since COVID, he kind of, I don't know if he disappeared into the vast Russian wilderness or something, but he's been really hit and miss to get a hold of lately. And I think we sent him another 15,000 rubles, but we haven't got our project done yet. But hey,
Uh,
that's a minimal investment.
yeah. Now it hasn't always been artwork labels. What did you have? I see a poster behind you that has your name on it and all that. Have your labels kind of morphed that way then, or have you always tried the creative approach?
They have morphed. I mean, that label behind me is just a riff on an '80s album, and so my first labels were basically that. I was just basically taking music and albums and artwork from the albums that I really liked. And after a while, I got a little nervous, like, you know, I was eventually going to get a cease and desist or something like that. And so we've kind of gone away from that. This particular art piece behind me is open domain, so I don't think that I can necessarily be be held legally accountable for using the image.
Yeah.
But the image and the name of the album are the name of the wine, so I don't know. I'm probably pressing my luck a little bit, but anyway, in the past few years, we sort of went away from that because I have got one cease and desist, and it actually had nothing to do with artwork or anything like that. It just happened to be a name. So, and I've gotten by with the artwork okay, but I named a wine after my daughter. It's called Love and Squalor. Apparently, there was a winery in Oregon who had a brand called Love and Squalor. And they said,
Wow.
okay, don't do that anymore. But no big deal. I don't think they had any more money than I did. They just sent me a letter. It wasn't from an attorney or anything. So, I
The
didn't
open domain thing,
Huh?
the open domain thing, actually, I mean, that kind of brings me over to Tooth and Nail,
Yeah.
because your guys' artwork, I mean, the dragons and castles and this big bore thing. I mean, talk a little bit about that, Jeremy, and how you guys got there.
Yeah, so the brands were started in with the 2008 vintage. Tooth and Nail was actually the first brand. The Stand, the Possessor, and the Glutton were the first wines, and this was a different time when kind of communicating to the customer was a little more traditional back then. And Rob Murray, the founder and owner of Rabble, has always been a fan of historic works of art and was really drawn to the Molly Duker wines back then in the mid 2000s. So he drew upon the public domain to kind of launch these first labels. And grape growing and winemaking is very much reminiscent of kind of the struggle of daily life, and that's where Tooth and Nail comes from. Fighting tooth and nail to survive. And with this set of this brand, we drew upon the naturalist John James Audubon. So the naturalist in the 19th century who had drawings of all these scenes in nature of these creatures of the forest, struggling to survive. And that's kind of the start of where these wines came from. And when we were searching around for a facility and a DTC space, the castle out here on 46 seemed like a perfect fit for kind of our brand and culture.
Right on. And iconic also in that these labels really stand out on the shelf. I mean, when you look at this too, I mean, I know that you see out there in the great big wine world, and not promoting necessarily, but like those true crimes labels and even Prisoner and stuff like that. I mean, these labels have that same kind of interesting appeal, that there's just some kind of intensity that exists, and your wines have some intensity as well. Is that just is that by design, or is that really kind of coincidence?
It's a little of both, Chris. I mean, each of our brands has kind of a different vision and wine style, so we're kind of guiding the wines to fit the style, or the mold, with if you will, with each brand. And early on, when I started making wines, I was really drawn to bigger, extracted, more expressive wines, and that fits perfectly with Tooth and Nail, because that's always been the concept and the vision of that wine style, and the artwork just fits. And to add on what you were saying is, like, now with wine being so competitive, like, you have to have more than just something high quality in the bottle, because how do you get the customer to gravitate towards your product versus someone else's wine? Days of having your house on the label are kind of behind us, I think. And they're just a lot of fun. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I bring that out though, as far as the store shelf is concerned, because of the three brands that we have here, with Tooth and Nail anyway, and locally around San Luis Obispo County, you definitely see those wines out on the shelves. I think your production is probably a little bit more than everybody else, so it definitely stands out when you're walking and shopping and all of that. So that's pretty cool how that works. I think I want to get into the business of labels here after a little bit with all of you, for that matter. But I want to go to Dirk, because Dirk, I mean, this thing is like happy and cool and kind of trippy at the same time, and obviously a watercolor. Is this something that you did, or like tell us the story behind this?
As I was getting close to labeling, my first commercial wines, I had thought that I would do something really simple, which is what you kind of see here on the back, which is technically my front label.
Okay.
Just the name and the basic symbol, the three drinking horns of Odin, the name of the wine, the info on the wine, keep it super simple. But we had gone, my girlfriend and I had gone on several trips to Sonoma and up to Carmel and a few other places. And we were observing other people and what they were gravitating towards. And anytime a winery had a pretty piece of art on the label, that's what people grabbed off the shelf and looked at. And, they say once you have that in your hand, that's one step closer to the sale. And so I had that in the back of my mind, but I wasn't sure exactly, what I was looking for. And then one day, one of my friends posted this piece of art online, not that particular one, but this one, with them, cows being abducted by aliens with Van Gogh's Starry Night in the background. I'm like, where did you find that? That is awesome. And he said he found it on this gallery site called Sagittarius Galleries. So I went on the website and I started looking at all her artwork, and she had a really broad, kind of different styles, maybe different periods of her life in art, that really pretty much anything that she had done would make a beautiful wine label. So I just reached out to her and I said, hey, you know what? I really love your artwork. It's so vibrant, so colorful. It almost moves on the bottle, and have you ever thought about putting your artwork on a wine label? And I saw that on her webpage that she had done a collaboration with a skateboard deck company. So I figured she might be up for something, else commercial like that. And sure enough, she was, and she turned me loose on this library of about 1,500 pieces of art that she's done in her lifetime. She's very prolific, and so I just started pouring through that. Luckily, I love art, and so it wasn't torture for me, but I wanted each piece of art not just to be a pretty picture on a bottle, but to relate to the wine somehow. And that became a bit of a challenge, but a fun challenge, and that's how all of that was kind of born.
That's cool. Did you find yourself at all, and this is kind of a weird question, but trying too hard to find that right piece of artwork for that right thing? So you're just
totally, yeah.
getting in the weeds.
Sometimes it was painfully obvious, like there was a girl with roses in her hair and I had a rosé, done, boom, done, but other times it was a little more, I started to make folders of things that I liked, and then and then made notes like, oh, this could be an Albarino, this could be, this could be that, and then, started to kind of fine tune it, ran it by people and such, and then kind of came to a final conclusion. And then I ran into the problem a couple of times in that some of her artwork that she had on her website and on Facebook and stuff was from a period of time where her computer crashed. So she didn't have a really high resolution image of that particular artwork that I wanted. And for graphics purposes, it's always best to have that. So then I had to go back to the drawing board sometimes and such. But the interesting thing, Jason, had the kind of the customized art created for him. And we talked about that. I talked about that with Aja, that's her name. And she's like, I'd really hate to create a custom piece of art for a wine or something that you tell me about and then you not like it. Or you tell me, well, I like it, but could you change this or could you do that? And I totally get that from an artist's standpoint and from my standpoint. So licensing her existing artwork for the labels just, was a lot easier to work with because I make so many different small lot wines.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that it seems like it's a really good kind of symbiotic relationship.
Oh, totally.
She makes a lot of art and you make a lot of wine.
Right. And, and we sell her canvas prints in the tasting room, and there's certain ones I can't even keep in. They're constantly, the moment I get them in, somebody walks in, it goes. Mm-hmm. And so her artwork is now exposed to a whole new group of people. and my wines are exposed, to her art world. And so that's been really, just a win-win.
It's interesting for everyone out there, but there are a lot of statistics when it comes to wine and wine sales, and how females tend to make the majority of the wine purchases, and not to diminish in any way their buying standards, but label comes to be some of the most important components when it comes to actually purchasing that wine, be it male or female, but females do tend to buy the majority of the wines on the shelves or whether they're visiting. And then, of course, wines are typically after purchase drunk, usually within the first 1 or 2 days post purchase. I mean, there's some cellaring and there's some other collecting and all of that kind of happening, but that's what we tend to see in the greater wine world. And so having a label that is really attractive and kind of standing out, I think, is obviously an important thing. Have you guys had any fails on labels? Has there ever been something that has happened where you're like, crap, I'm not going to do that one again? Dirk, reaching right
Well,
back.
well, this is ironically, this is not a fail, but at the time that I chose this label earlier this year, before we went to bottle in April, um, this what the label portrays wasn't, I didn't think it could have any kind of negative connotation. In fact, it was a series of 3 labels that kind of told a story. Um, I had I had some Willow Creek Grenache from Jada, so I used this fall um, piece of art from her, and because to me Grenache is just a great fall feast wine. It's a great Thanksgiving wine, and Vineyard Drive in the fall looks like this too. So that was a no-brainer. But I did some Tanat also from Jada, and I picked our Dark and Mysterious Tanat Girl for that. And then I found this piece of art, and the artist didn't know that I was going to tell a story with her art, and I wasn't intending on making a blend of Grenache and Tanat. But about halfway through the aging process, I tasted the two and I poured them together, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And I found this piece of art that I thought kind of blended the two because it has some of the same coloration, and it's her either entering or leaving the forest, but also the forest kind of looks like it's on fire.
Yeah.
In March, that wasn't an issue. When I released this wine, these 3 wines for International Grenache Day, everything was on fire.
Yeah.
However, out of the 3 wines and out of all my wines, this is my best-selling wine, and I've sold the artwork twice. So
You never know out there, right? Jeremy, you've been in this business a little while. You've been at other brands. Have you seen when it comes to label design, some things that have worked and some things that haven't? I mean, we talk a lot and we don't have them in front of us, but there's a lot of classic labels out there that just print the name or no artwork, and then some of them, they have faces and then they don't, and things like that. I mean, over your time in the industry, how have you seen things ebb and flow when it comes to that?
Who did you ask that, Chris? I'm sorry.
Jeremy,
Okay.
Oh,
because you've been
yeah.
at multiple brands over time, and so I think you probably have a perspective from some different places that you've worked, and seeing how labels have kind of either progressed or maybe gone back to a more simpler typeface or something like that.
Yeah, I think both can work really well. I think, you know, I, I like it when, or I think the wine style should kind of match the vision and the feel of the artwork, whether it is something very traditional with just the name or the landscape on the label, or artwork driven like the 3 wines we're tasting today. I have noticed a few wines out there in the world where it's like the label artwork is a big stretch and something very intense, and then it's almost like the wine stylistically is on the other end of the spectrum, which is okay if that's your goal, is to kind of create this contrast and juxtaposition. I think that would be a cool strategy, but you might end up confusing people. And I think that it's also really depends on the culture of the organization and the owner, and what their vision is. And you know, there's a lot of many of the best wines in Paso Robles, in my opinion, have you know, very traditional labels, and then others have wild labels. So I think either way, as long as the wine style is fitting, it works.
Yeah, yeah. And oftentimes you hear, let's, you know, don't put an amphibian or some sort of an animal or whatever it is on the label. But I suppose sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
It
Also,
works.
your own name. Yeah, exactly, right. And that one works. And then also putting your own name on the label. And Jason, did you wrestle at all with that? Did you sit there and think, okay, do I put my name on the label or should I create a name? Did that ever come into consideration when you were creating your brand and your label?
Oh, I just use my name because I have zero creativity when it comes to branding myself. So I don't know. I have a fairly interesting. My last name is Bushong, which is Alsatian, which would be Bushong, which is actually kind of loosely translates to wine stopper or cork. So,
Oh,
you know, I didn't even know that forever. And then, but so that's where my name came in, putting it on the label. And some of our labels, it's on the label, and some of them we don't want to interfere with the artwork. I guess some of it's complimentary and some of it's not. And but like I said, for marketing, I mean, all the branding is on the back of the label. Kind of, I mean, I think there's lots of brands out there like that anymore that just, you know, the imagery is what it is, and then the information is on the back. You know, I mean, Herman's Story, which one of your people following this segment are mentioned, you know, that's their imagery as well. You know, there's nothing really on the front and what have you,
yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're on like a grocery store shelf or something like that, that's probably definitely more pertinent than if you're just trying to do a small boutique thing and basically hand selling it. You know, I mean, we have, you know, we have placements in like more wine shops and wine bars and restaurants and stuff where I don't think that's as critical, because again, it's probably slightly being hand sold by whoever purchased the wine at the wine shop and what have you. But
Sure.
if you're a big
Absolutely.
national brand, obviously you have to have your branding out there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think when you have the opportunity for the hand sell and for somebody to tell your story on your behalf, then obviously that's going to, you know, come into play, and that's, I suppose, where some of that decision making comes from a label, because that's a tough one for sure.
Yeah, they usually screw up the story though. They start with pronunciation. I get most people think I'm Asian. I don't know why, but anyway. Yeah.
That's funny. Let's
Yeah.
talk about wine. Let's drink some wine. First up, I would say would be Dirk, your wine. That's a blend of, what is it, Marsanne and Roussanne, 50-50. But I'm going to tell everybody, by the way, this is not a Paso AVA wine. It comes from up in Chalon, but Dirk convinced me that he wanted to share this wine with us, but he does have, of course, Paso AVA wines in his portfolio. But Dirk, talk a little bit about this wine.
So Chalon is kind of one of the first places that I visited when I moved here in 2013 with a food and wine group that I found on Meetup. And we got a private tour of the winery at the time. It wasn't open to the public. And I was just fascinated with this area. And so fast forward a couple of years, I started being able to source some Syrah from up there and started making wine up there. 2017, that source dried up as the vineyard sold, and I was kind of like, oh man, I'm really bummed out. And as luck would have it, I would meet Michael Michaud, who was Chalon's winemaker back in the 80s and has been farming up there for 40 plus years. And I was able to pour some barrel samples of my Syrah for him, and he approved of my winemaking and sold me some of his Hermitage clone Syrah. for 2018. Fast forward to 2019, was going to re-up on the Syrah, and he mentioned to me that he had this acre of Marsanne Roussanne that somebody had stopped, purchasing those grapes. It was just an acre. They wanted to make more wine or something. And since I was kind of specializing in these small batch wines, I was like, yeah, I'm all over that. And Marsanne Roussanne was probably one of the first white wine, both of those varieties. I remember from some Rhone Ranger events when I first moved here to Paso, in being kind of really enjoying both of those. And I'd looked at another vineyard for Marsanne Roussanne, I think the year before, but decided against it. And so when he offered me that, I'm like, yeah, tell me a little more about it. And the history of this particular grape, or the planting, is fabulous. Not many people know, but Chalon was actually part of the Judgment of Paris in 1976. The movie Bottle Shock makes it seem like, it was only Napa Valley, but Santa Cruz Mountains Ridge was there, Chalon was there, and
Yeah, Chalon had some really great history
it's
in the state of California. So
yeah, it's such a neat area. And so fast forward to the early 80s, the French winemaking world had been kind of turned upside down by the Judgment of Paris. They were sending the young ones from the families over to do harvest internships in the States now, which wasn't something that was common kind of prior to that. Usually it was people from the States going to France to do that. And one of those kids came from a 15th generation winemaking family in Hermitage. And lucky for him, when he got to Chalon, Michael was there. Michael was Swiss and French. He spoke French. They were able to communicate. They became best of friends. The kid actually ended up staying here, got his enology degree from Davis, went back to France to work in the family business. When Michael got married, he went to Europe on his honeymoon. This was in the 90s, I believe, and stopped by the family estate to say hello to his friend and former pupil. Well, it was now a 16th generation winemaking family. The young man had elevated up to winemaker, and as a thank you gift and a wedding gift to Michael and his wife, gifted him the cuttings of this Marsanne and Roussanne from their Hermitage estate vineyard, that same hillside they've been farming for over 500 years. And they had done this in a traditional field blend, totally random Marsanne Roussanne, 5 plants of Marsanne, 4 plants of Roussanne, 3, just not even row by row, just totally randomly planted. And so when they gave Michael the envelope of these cuttings, it was just labeled Marsanne Roussanne and a bunch of sticks, which Michael took back here, propagated until he had enough to plant that little acre. And then he planted it just like they did, as a field blend, totally randomly. He's never bothered to have it genetically tested to figure out just how much Marsanne or Roussanne there is. We just, he's always picked it all at once and gone with that. And that's why I kind of chose this label, in that it kind of represents the natural balance of the Marsanne Roussanne, the yin and the yang. It's a blend made by nature, not so much by man. Every year it's going to be different. Maybe in a rainy year, the Roussanne, crops better. Maybe in a sunny year, the Marsanne crops better. Just don't know what it's going to yield. The 50-50 is kind of a random guess. I threw it on the bottle just for the heck of it. But I love the history. I love the kind of the old world vine regrown here in the new world and done in that old school way. So that's how the balance came to be.
That's really cool. What do you guys think, Jason, Jeremy, about this wine?
Oh, it's a wonderful wine. It's balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got this. I love the honey, the beeswax that it's got. It's got some good freshness and acidity, and it's also showing, some white flour, which I like quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to make a wine that was different than my other white wine, which is an Albarino. Really clean, crisp, mineral, whereas this has, some richness and some viscosity, but it's still light on its feet. So I kind of like pitch this towards, if somebody says, well, I like Chardonnay, this is, more in that direction. Whereas if they like a Sauv Blanc or a Pinot Grigio, I
Yeah,
skew towards the Albarino.
for sure. I think it has that viscosity that
Yeah.
somebody who might be a Chardonnay drinker might want to lean towards. So that's great. That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that wine. It's
Thanks, Dirk. It's really nice.
Yeah, that's really good. Next, I think we should go over to Barbera and Jason. Do you want to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about?
Yeah, so I love Barbera and had been wanting to make one up here in Paso for quite some time. And I knew that the Steinbecks had a small block of older Barbera on one of their properties. And I had done a lot of work with them through some consulting I did for a long, long time. And so I was always, trying to get trying to get a little bit of the Barbera, but most of the time it was always sold or what have you. And in 18, I had finished harvest, and Barbera is really naturally high in acidity, so it comes in rather late on that realm. And I got a call from Howie, and he said, "Hey, there's some Barbera left if you want some." And I'd already cleaned everything up and put everything away, and it was one of those deals where you were like, "Oh man." But I couldn't say no, so I went and got it, and it was kind of like a one-off wine. I haven't made it since, but we really like it. It's been very popular, very successful. It's more of a California style. We did a pretty heavy Saignée on it to get the body up and the color to where it is, and the acidity. It was picked very late that year, so the acidity came down quite a bit and is very balanced. And we really like it, and I can't really even say why I haven't gone back and made it again. Just
You should. That's a good wine, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
probably
that's a
should,
delicious wine.
but it's like it's kind of like Dirk and probably Jeremy and any winemaker I've ever known. We want to make everything. We want to make every geeky wine out there in the whole world, but budgetary and marketing wise and all those things come into play, and you're like, wow, you gotta hone it in every once in a while, or the accountants come and get you. And so I probably will go back and make it again, but we've been really happy with it. I love drinking this wine. It's perfect, fall wine in my opinion. Perfect right
Yeah.
now. Go ahead.
I love it. It's got great vibrancy and good freshness. Love like the texture and the volume on the palate. And as soon as I stuck my nose in the glass, Jason, I was like, oh, that's old school Paso right there.
Yeah.
And that was cool. It like, I haven't had Barbera in a little while, and wow, it's impressive wine for sure. And I want to drink a lot of it.
Well,
Yeah,
I
the
can slide it
aromatics.
for you if you want to drink a lot of it. I'm sure we could work out a trade.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell that this was a right pick, but it's fitting, and it's still got some good verve and tenacity going on.
Yeah.
This was one of those wines when I poured it, as soon as I opened the bottle even and started pouring in the glass, that aroma, that brambliness, and there's like a perfume, but a beautiful, just the aroma, the nose, and everything was just like, oh, I got to have this. It's just beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it has like a really rich cooked plum character, but then a lot of perfume too.
Yeah.
It really came out. We were super stoked, and like I said, I don't know why I've never gone back and made it. I just haven't at this point. But
During harvest, I always fiend In-N-Out or something bad for me, but this wine makes me want In-N-Out even more right now.
I'll take that as a good thing. I don't know.
It is.
Okay. Cool.
I'll see you there in 15 minutes after this, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's only a short trip to Atascadero.
I got a few hours ahead of me, Dirk.
Oh
Give
man,
me a double animal style and a Neapolitan shake, please. I appreciate that.
I might be getting a 4x4 later.
There you go.
damn you guys, make me hungry. That sounds so good. Oh man, hey, before Jeremy, you start to talk about your wine, we had a cool question earlier about force of nature in Ohio, and how it's I guess it's maybe not there anymore. Do you have a story behind that?
Yeah, I saw that. Hey, Steve, I've actually heard of your store, believe it or not. Thanks for the support. Yeah, so the Rabble brand was at one point called Force of Nature. And we applied for trademarks, and we found out that about a couple of weeks before we applied, someone applied for a mark for Force de la Naturale, which was a very, very expensive Cabernet Franc from Napa Valley. And we wrote a letter and said, "Hey, we have a brand called Force of Nature. Can we coexist?" And they said no. So we panicked and we rebranded as Rabble, the Disorderly Mob. So that's kind of our namesake, the name of the umbrella, the name of our company, and the name of one of our brands.
Smart move.
Right on. All right, right on. Right on. Yeah.
People, we were really scared. We were like, "This is the end. We're done." And actually, it took a couple years, but people have forgotten, and we're a Rabble now.
All right.
So.
Before, and once again, right before we get to your wine, Jeremy, I forgot to ask. So, Dirk, the amount of cases made of this and retail pricing.
I made 5 barrels of this. I think it ended up 118 cases. The retail price is $41.
Okay. Jason, same.
I made about 125 cases of that Barbera, and the retail price is $37.
Okay, great. Cool, cool. Thank you. Jeremy, let's talk about the stand.
Cool. Yeah, 2017, the stand. This is this is the most unapologetic wine I make. This is just big and bold and intense. Petite Syrah is the driving force here, from Paso Robles, from one of our vineyards that we farm. And then 14% Syrah and Viognier from Rancho Real or Murmur Vineyard in Santa Maria Valley. So that was a co-ferment that I do every year to put into the stand. And I started doing that in 2015 with this wine. And we've really been working at it over the years to kind of get the identity and the style real polished. So we're fermenting the Petite Syrah on a mix of stainless steel and puncheons and concrete now. And then it's aged in about a third new, mostly puncheons, for 15 months. And then the Syrah is married in, and I raise it in stainless for 3 to 4 months prior to bottling. And this was bottled in May of 2019. So it's actually showing really nice. It's got a year plus in bottle. This is bottled unfiltered. It's a ton of fun for me. I love making this blend every year.
Oh, this wine is so intense. I really want like a pork loin with like some sort of a crust on it right now, and just I want to eat right now. Damn it with that.
To me, it has like this really intense cherry character, black cherry. Love it. Just really vibrant and fruit forward, and love it. Really nice and beautiful texture and balance, and very nice on the palate. Really nice wine. Good job, Jeremy.
Thank you.
And I know nobody will believe me, but I can taste the Viognier. There's something that brings to the table, that little.
Hang on, I can taste some Marsan Roussan too. No, I'm just...
I
just came through. I don't know.
There's something unique about doing that, Jeremy. Can you explain a little bit more? The co-fermenting?
Yeah, I love it. I started, my first year making the wines for Rabble. I did a small ferment. I've always loved the wines that were co-fermented, Syrah and Viognier. And I love the wines of the Côte Rôtie. And kind of the process that goes down is there's what's called co-pigmentation, a cofactor. And actually, some polymerization takes place with anthocyanins, actually makes the wine appear to be darker. But organoleptically on the palate, it kind of lifts it, gives it this more high tone. Sometimes we notice bacon fat or lavender. They're gorgeous wines. Côte Rôtie, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I made the first one from Rancho Real or Murmur in 2015, the VO Syrah co-ferment was a little too intense to say, bottle it on itself or use it for a more fatty Syrah. So we were experimenting. It was just way too perfumed. So it fit in very nicely in this blend, which is not a small blend. And then
No.
we repeated it every year since,
But
and it's worked out.
I think the Syrah and the Viognier just lift the Petite Syrah, to a different level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the co-ferment. It's just, to me, I'm trying to co-ferment some Syrah I'm getting from Gavilan Mountain. But the Viognier's been ready for so long, it's like, that's the tricky part. I mean,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
This year I'm doing it a little differently. I'm picking VO for white wine on Monday, and it's from a cool climate, and I'm gonna destem a portion of it and throw it into an active Syrah ferment. So it's not like too ripe. The Viognier is getting picked specifically for white wine.
Yeah. That's
Whereas
awesome.
if you wait, in the past, if we wait till Murmur, which is a cold site, we wait for the Syrah to get ready and then leave Viognier out there, what's going down.
Yeah. that's a big problem.
How's it going right now with harvest, you guys? I mean, I know, Jeremy, you've already basically said it's going to be a couple hours before you're going to get any in and out, but like you're I think you had said something, you're near 50% in or so.
Yeah, tomorrow will be.
Yeah, so it's moving for you. You guys are pretty intense. When I came by to visit, you guys, everybody was busy. Every hand over there was like doing something.
Yeah, yesterday was nutty.
Yeah.
It's been a weird harvest, It's been
Say that again, Jason.
yeah. It just complements the rest of the year, I guess.
Yes.
I that's all I can say, I mean, I don't know. It's just been strange, but anyway, it's been good too. I think we have some incredible quality out there for sure.
Yeah, I brought Cab Franc in this morning, and so now I just have two different cabs outstanding. One from Monterey County, and then I'm doing for the first time this year some of the old Neumann, which is now Brecken Old Vine Cab, for the first time, and I'm excited to work with that. But I think that's going to take another couple of weeks before that's ready to go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, up in the Adelaida. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I have a vineyard behind Brecken, and it's always the last thing I pick every year. It's very cool, right? I mean, it's literally right behind Damien's house there, so it's a very cool site. We picked a bunch of fruit today, all Willow Creek, 3 different varieties. We picked G2, Tannat, more Tannat, Carignan from Derby, and Grenache and Mourvedre as well. So it was a multi-pick pick.
Hey, we have a question from Facebook land, Jeremy. And I think you may have mentioned this earlier, but can you tell us again why it's called The Stand?
The Stand is an excerpt from John James Audubon's description and of the depiction of the wild boar. It's, one of them stands sentinel, and that was. Sorry, guys.
So for
everyone,
that's somebody's house. I can't figure it out.
No, that's my office.
That's your dog.
Everybody watching, he's got these 2 little fluffy dogs. I don't know, are they Shih Tzus or something? But they're like in a little playpen or something in his office.
Nice. What are their names?
Ernesto and Paco.
Ernesto and Paco taking charge. Man, I like it.
Yeah, yeah, they're
letting you know that this segment is over.
They are my homies.
They're your what?
My homies.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gizmo made an early appearance. I'm not sure whether he showed his butt or not, but he's gone on to other pastures.
Yeah, he tried to show his butt, Dirk, but we tried not to look.
Yeah, exactly. Although we were thinking like it was going to happen, and actually, then he was behind you on those by those bottles, and I thought for sure he was going to knock a bottle over.
He knows better.
He was slinky. He got through all right.
Right on. All right. And so we're getting near the end here of our show. We're just about 5 minutes left here. So I want to give everybody a quick chance to a quick shout out if you've got a virtual tasting happening or you want to talk a little bit about what's happening for consumers to be able to see your website. Dirk, let's start with you. Let's go round robin here, like 30 seconds or so.
All right, absolutionsellers.com. We are open 7 days a week by appointment. You can make appointments directly on the website there. I will be doing a virtual tasting of my 2018 Syrah, which is also was the wedding gift to Michael and his wife from the family there in Hermitage. We're doing that next Thursday at 5. I'll be posting, I'll post an event thing. And please come visit us in Morro Bay. It's a beautiful time of year. October is kind of our Indian summer. And enjoy the barking of the sea lions and the chilling of the otters and have some great handcrafted limited production wines with us.
Right on. Cool, cool. Thank you very much. And yeah, that's a really cool location. Morro Bay is not far from Paso, so if you're coming to town and you want to get over to the coast and go check it out, great spot to go and wander around and just get a little piece of old California, I would say. Jason, what's happening with you?
You can get anything you want from us at bushongvintagecompany.com. We're open Thursday through Sundays currently. I just want to thank everybody for having me here, sharing their incredible wines with me. I'd love for you to come and taste some of our wines, but I encourage you to go taste all the incredible wines that are in Paso Robles or in Morro Bay or any of the surrounding areas. It's just an amazing place to live and make wine and what have you. And I'm just thrilled to be here and actually, pretty blessed, I feel. So anyway, and I hope everyone has
cheers to that.
Hope everyone has an amazing harvest, and I hope it goes really well. And I'm sorry my phone keeps ringing. I apologize. But,
so I'll say, Jason, your tasting room, and when you can be indoors and everything, he has a really cool tasting room. You can go in there, spin some records, hang out. It's a really cool lounge. And it just so happens to be the location of our former record store, the only record store we had in Paso, Aardvark Records, years ago.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, when they closed, man, that broke my heart. I used to go there all the time to flip through records because I have so much vinyl that I think my wife almost divorced me at some point in time if I didn't get rid of some of it.
That's awesome.
But,
yeah, it was cool. I mean, it's kind of synchronous, or I don't know,
Yeah.
It was weird that we're here, but yeah, I went into Aardvark a lot too. It was a cool place. I still get mail at them occasionally.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Right on.
Right
All right,
on.
Jeremy, what you got going on before we let everybody go?
We've got plenty going on. You can make reservations to taste on our new website, rabblewine.com, which we're just rolling out. We have got plenty of outdoor space and lots of tables, so tons of square footage, so everyone can be, socially distanced and still enjoy tooth and nail. Yeah, and follow us on Instagram, rabblewine. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah, right on. Thanks, Jeremy. So, hey, everyone. So for next week, our show is actually not going to be on Thursday. Next week, we've got a show that's going to happen on Friday because we are going to be unveiling the winners of the San Luis Obispo County Wine Awards, the Winemaker of the Year, the Grower of the Year, and the Wine Industry Person of the Year, as well as Winery of the Year from the Central Coast Wine Competition. So if you tuned in last week, you would have heard our wine judges talking about the whole judging process, and then you would have seen or at least heard about the Central Coast Wine Competition. And so that is coming up this next week. And so for Friday, for next week's show, it's going to be on Friday, 3 o'clock, where I will be part host on that, along with Tom Kafuri from over at the Mid-State Fair. So I hope you'll tune in. We will make sure that it's on our website as well as on Facebook. And then show after that, we should be doing a show that's going to be Ask the Sommelier. I'm working on that one, but it's going to be the kind of show where you as the viewer, hopefully on the Zoom side of things, because we're going to encourage you to come over to Zoom, where I can actually get you on camera, ask a question of the sommelier about the wine you're drinking or whatever it might be. It'll probably be partnered with a master class on Paso wine that I'll present. So please tune in next week on Friday instead of Thursday, 3 o'clock. Go to pasowine.com for the details and the links and all that. It's actually going to be really actually featured on Facebook and not actually on Zoom. So hopefully you're on Facebook and you'll be able to do that. And then the following week you can rejoin us on Zoom. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time on. I know that you're busy with harvest, but man, it's good to have you on, and it was great to get to know you. So cheers.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good one, you guys.
All right, later.
Take it easy.